Welcome today, and thank each of you for being here. Today is our month in review, where we review our month's theme. And this month, the theme has centered around the highest form of yoga practice, self-observation. And we've studied this theme through competition, expectations, and judgment. Today, we will review these 3 studies through our 3 segments of asana practices. So during our warming segment today, we will observe our tendencies towards competition. As we move into the energizing, we will observe our expectations. And as we finish well, we observe and release our tendencies towards judgment. Your yoga invitation for today: simply allow my cues to guide you as we review self-observation. Namaste. We invite a few moments with our centering stillness. So on your yoga mat, begin to slowly move away from the thinking and the doing and tap into being. Arriving into settling into clarity into connection. Let's invite our spine to awaken by lengthening. And notice the heart center lifting. Mind settling. And body centering into stillness. We approach our practice today with an attitude of self-observation. With our very next breath, we invite some warming asana practices. So from a seated pose, begin to receive a deepened breath. Keep that spine awakened. And as you release the breath, just slowly let the right ear softly travel towards the right shoulder. Receive the next breath and bring your head back into the center. As you release this breath, slowly let the left ear travel towards the top of your left shoulder. And the breath is received as we bring the head back to center. A couple more of these. We're reviewing our observations and our tendencies towards competition. So first, little gentle movements here. Notice, you try to push or reach all the way on the first move. Flow into this gentle movement. Allow the shoulders to stay relaxed. And we're going to come back up into the center. Pause with that. And a couple rounds of the seated spinal waves. Palms on the thighs or the knees. Receiving of a breath. Let's gaze upwards. Roll the shoulder blades down into those back pockets. Broaden through the front body. And as you release the breath, start to bow the head. Lift the shoulders up and round through the back body to open through our back body. We rise to center. We gaze up, open the front body. Releasing of a breath. Start to bow the head. Round the back body and open through your back body here. How about a couple more? Here we are, observing, noticing our tendencies towards any competition here. And we're going to complete this last cycle, seated spinal waves. And we come back into the center for a moment of pause. Release the arms down by our sides. We're ready for a little seated twist now. Arms reach out and rise all the way up. Even gaze up if that feels right for you today. Let's reopen the arms into wingspan. Palms down. Turn the body towards the right. Circle the left arm over towards the right leg. And let the right arm circle around. Release the right arm. Receive a nice deep breath. And as you release the breath, let's release any tendencies towards competition here. Receive. And we'll go back to center. Right arm lifts up. Body returns to center. Arms open out. Palms up. Reach up through the fingertips. The releasing breath. Reopen the arms, wingspan, palms turn down, turning our body to the left. Right arm circles across the front, resting on the left leg. Left arm reaches behind. Here comes a deep breath. Notice. And release the breath. And again, we invite releasing tendencies towards competition. We go back to center. Open the arms, return to the center, reach upwards through the fingertips. And I'm going to invite you to flow 1 or 2 more cycles of your seated spinal twist here. Notice where the presence of your breath body is. Keeping your physical body in alignment. All of these yoga skills always help us with releasing competitions. And the next time you come back to center, your practice is balanced, both sides. Reach up, gaze up, all the way up. Roll those shoulder blades down. And then softly reopen the arms through the wingspan, palms down, and bring the palms to the tops of your thighs or the knees and start to stir your spine. Circle your body around. This is a free, easy movement. It's a favorite warming asana practice to release. Come back into your center, please, with a soft pause. Recenter, and then turn your circle around. Stir your spine the opposite direction. And I'm going to invite us here just to observe feelings or notions that seems to stir competition. Is there any competitive nature here? We'll come back to the center, pause, receive a breath, arms open out wide. Circle the arms forward this time, please. Palms touch, fingers touch, thumbs touch, interlace the fingers, spin the palms away from you. Keep the upper back open, and we're going to just kind of flow in a little side twist. Receive a breath and reach over to the left. Release the breath and reach over to the right. Receive to the left, release to the right. Just keep going. Whatever your breath pattern is here, notice that the body can follow that pattern. And if you get confused, if you get lost with breath and body, just go back, restart. And we're going to flow one more time. Back into the center. Rise up. Palms are going to lift up first. So keep the fingers interlaced best you can. Lift up through the palms of the hands. Let that heart center open again. And then we'll bend our elbows, bring the palms of the hands to the back of our head. Thumbs point down. Keep those elbows wide. We're ready for a little deeper twisting action now. Receive a breath. When you release the breath, turn the body to the right. Start to bow so the chest moves towards the right thigh and the left elbow moves towards the right thigh. If you can gaze up at the right elbow, I'd invite you to do that. We're going to rise back to center. Lift the body, open the elbows, turn to the left. Right elbow starts to travel to the left thigh. If you can gaze up at your left elbow, I encourage you to do that. And we rise back up, open to center. Now we're going to flow a few more times. Let's see if we can start to deepen the releasing breath as we twist and bow into this practice. Just remember that self-observation is our highest form of yoga practice. Please complete your last cycle so it's a balanced practice. Center, elbows open, fingers slide apart. Open those arms out into that biggest wingspan, and then let the arms circle all the way up once again. Encourage you to gaze upwards. Feel the lengthening through your side bodies. Reopen the arms through wingspan and bring the palms down just to softly touch your mat. Pause with a breath. Return to stillness. And we're going to transition into our tabletop. So here's where we begin to move from the warming into energizing. So from your seated pose, you transition to your tabletop. Come back into the center, knees hip-width apart, tops of the feet on the mat, or we tuck the toes because we're going to do some tabletop spinal waves now. So the knees can stay down, or if you choose to hover the knees, the toes tuck under and you just hover the knees. Spinal waves, tailbone tucking, head bowing. Tailbone lifting, head lifting. Few more flows. We're going to review self-observations with expectations here. One more full cycle. And then we return back to the tabletop if the knees hovered, tops of the feet down, spinal balance. Reach the left arm forward, the right leg back, and let them rise together. Lift up the left thumb, point down the right toes, and then lengthen from fingertips to the heel. And bring that practice back to the tabletop. Other side. Right arm is reaching forward, left leg reaching back. Feel the reach. Don't expect any more than what is. And then let them rise together. Thumb up, toes down, and then lengthen from fingertips to the heel. And then bring it back to the tabletop. Flow one or two more of those spinal balances. Reconnect with your breath. Now we learned when we studied this theme in the second week of this month that expectations can bring both negative and positive outcomes. We'll visit that just a little bit, but feel one more full reach through your spinal balance. And when the practice is balanced, both sides come back to tabletop. And I'm going to invite the tiger pose. So the palms stay down, the left leg only reaches back. Toes touch onto the mat or floor. Now lift that left leg up from there. Toes point down now. Now the knee bends. Toes point up. Head gazes up lightly. You're going to pause for a couple breaths. We want to be stable and strong. Notice. Observe. Softly, toes point down. Stretch out that left leg. Bring it back to tabletop. Right leg reaches behind us. Feel the toes touching the mat or the floor. Feel the fullness of the reach. And then let them rise up, lift up, and then the toes point down. Now, bend the right knee. Toes point up again. Head gazes up lightly. Breath. And softly stretch out that right leg. Toes point down and return to your tabletop. Flow through one round of your spinal waves. There we go. And from your spinal wave, please transition to downward dog. How does that work for you today? What choices do you make in transitioning from tabletop to downward dog? Hi, Mama. And we're going to go wide-legged downward dog today. So please step your feet out wide to the long edges of your mat. Heels lift up and then walk the wide-legged downward dog today. Keep breathing, keep walking. So when we observe anything that's negative with our self-observations, that's an unmet expectation in yoga. And how we can start to transform that to a positive is just to notice what is. What is right here, right now. One more. And then let both heels rise up together. Lift up as high as you can. And then softly start to bring both heels down together. Let them reach towards your mat today. Invite the heels to reach towards your mat today. And then just notice where they are at their healthy edge. If you engage your thigh muscles, does anything shift or change? If you engage Mula Bandha, lifting of the navel towards the spine and drawing it inwards, does anything change? That yoga foundational skills. Always in alignment, connecting with breath. And then we can notice what is and reside there. Next breath, we're going to lift those heels up high, gaze forward to the top of your mat, soften the knees, and then you're going to slowly start to walk the hands back towards your toes. Walk them back. Walk the hands back towards the toes. If the heels are still lifted, please bring the heels down. And then turn the toes outwards just a little bit. We're going to prayer squat. Start to bend the knees. Start to drop the hips. Now maybe today your fingertips stay on the mat and you practice prayer squat here. Maybe today the palms come to the thighs and you practice prayer squat from here. Maybe today you let the hips drop and you bring the palms together. Your prayer squat, your practice. We don't expect any more than what is. Receive a deep breath. Here we go. Palms down. Hips rise. Legs stretch out. Walk the hands forward. Turn the feet parallel and return to a wide-legged plank. So the feet stay wide towards the outsides of your mat from plank. Return back to wide-legged downward dog. Hips reach up. Let your body move back towards your thighs. Receive a breath. We're going to do 2 more of those flows now, so get energizing. Heels lift up. Slowly and softly walk the hands back towards the toes. Start to turn the toes outwards. Start to bend the knees. Drop the hips. Prayer squat. 1 more breath. Self-observing any expectations here. Plant the palms down. Stretch the legs out. Lift the hips up. Walk the hands forward. Turn the feet parallel. Wide-legged plank. Receive a breath. Wide-legged downward facing dog. Okay, 1 more flow. We've got this. Receiving of a breath. Knees soften. Releasing of the breath. Bend the knees. Release the hips. Turn the toes out. Prayer squats. Plant the palms down. Start to rise up. Lift up through the hips. Stretch out the legs. Turn the feet parallel. Walking your hands forward. We're back into wide-legged plank. Yes, we are. And then we return to wide-legged downward facing dog. What is right here, right now? When we move through any unmet expectations with this self-observation, we can arrive back home with where we are, who we are in this moment. And then we're going to very softly gaze forward, lift the heels, bend the knees. Now we're going to walk the feet to the top edge of our mat. Come into a soft forward fold, knees gently bend. And then open those arms out wide to the wingspan, please. And let's all start to rise up, lift up, reach up. We're going into an upward salute. Gaze up. Even lift the toes up here. And then from this upward salute, we're going into a little standing balance practice. So please stay where you are. I'm just going to turn on my mat, face the camera. Start to muscular energize that left leg. Mula Bandha, tailbone tucking, shoulders releasing. Bend the right knee, find your drishti, and then start to lift that right foot up. 1 more lift. Softly release that right leg, foot back down. Feel the fullness of the touch. Energize the right leg. Receive a breath. Soften the left knee. Keep that drishti. Focus your eyes. And pull that left foot up away from your mat. Release the breath and bring that left leg down. A couple more of these flows at your own rhythm, at the pace that's just right for you. Maybe you just want to hold the pose for a few breaths today. Maybe that's an encouraging inner calling for you. Maybe you just want to bend the knee and keep the toes touching the mat today. It's your practice. So our self-observations through expectations, when we notice the unmet expectations, and then we move into the noticing of what is, we start to transform into the positive expectations. And when that last cycle is completed for you, we bring that left foot all the way back down. We gaze up fully into the upward salute. Now I'm going to go back to the top of my mat, meet and join where you are. We're going to flow through wide sun salutations today. Upward salute, release a breath. Arms open out through the wingspan. Go into forward fold, please. However that looks for you now. A breath into the forward fold. And then a very gentle bending of the knees and step the feet back. We're going to wide downward dog. So you can either bring the feet wide right from the get-go, or you bring them back hip width apart and then walk them out. Wide downward facing dog. With the very next breath, the heels rise up. We're going to wide, low lunge. Either the left leg reaches out to wide split dog, and you step that left foot to the outside of your left hand, or you return to tabletop and step that left foot to the outside of your left hand. The right knee softly comes down. It's a low lunge. Top of the foot comes down. Heart center lifts. Just wiggle your fingers. Know you're still with whole body skill. And then the toes tuck under. We lift that right knee up. We're going to prayer squat. Bring that right foot forward outside the right hand. Toes turn out, hips drop down. Where does your prayer squat invite you now? Plant the palms down, please. Lift the hips, stretch the legs as we did in warming. Turn the feet parallel, wide forward fold. And then we're going to the wide upward salute. So from here, the arms reach out. The body starts to lift. We rise. We greet the upward movements. And then we return to wide forward fold. Keep the legs wide. It feels different. Let the hips hinge and soften the knees if that's the best way for you today. Wide forward fold to the wide half lift. So now we lengthen our spine. So we're gazing down so the neck stays lengthened and reach away through the tailbone. Soften both knees, please. We're going to go to wide low lunge. The left leg is going to step back. So the left leg steps back and the right foot stays to the outside of the right hand. Bring the left knee down, top of the left foot down. Sink the hips down. Lift the heart up. And gently bring the head back to center. Tuck those back left toes under. Lift that back left knee. Go into wide, downward facing dog. Transition how it works best for you. Wide, downward dog. From wide, downward dog to wide plank. So we let the heels lift up, shift the body forward. Drop the hips so they're in line with your shoulders. Wide plank and return. Wide, downward facing dog. Keep breathing. Keep investigating and noticing here. These are practices we normally don't do. It's wide legs, and things feel different. And then do we expect to go back to the normal feelings and sensations? Yeah. One more breath, wide, downward dog. Remember, we always have the choice And then we're going to flow through that practice. I will give less cues and just more focus on the pose name itself. Here we go. Breath. We're going to go into wide, low lunge, left leg forward. From here, we're going to go into prayer squat. We lift that right knee, step the right foot to the outside of the right hand, sink down. Prayer squat. Plant the palms down. Start to lift the hips up. Start to stretch the legs out. Turn the feet parallel. Wide forward fold. Upward salute. Arms reach out. Lift them up to the wingspan. Lift the body up. Rise up. Reach up. Gaze all the way up. Keep the feet wide. Remember, this whole sequence is about keeping the legs wide. Return. Wide. Forward fold. Bow into it. Half lift. From half lift, the knees soften. Now we're going to step the left leg back. All the way back. Right foot stays to the outside of the right hand. Left knee down, heart center lifting. Receive a breath. Bring up that left knee. Transition to wide downward dog. How does that go for you now? Wide downward facing dog. One more breath. And then we transition to wide plank. Heels rise, gaze forward, shift the body forward, drop the hips in line with the shoulders, and let's all return. Wide, downward facing dog. One more breath. We're flowing through that sequence one more time. This time we start with the right leg. Receiving breath. Either wide split dog or tabletop. Right foot steps to the outside of the right hand. Soften the left knee down. Wide, low lunge. Where can the hips sink you down now? Receiving breath. Back toes tuck under. Back knee lifts up. Prayer squat. Sink into it. Don't compete with yourself. Don't expect any more than what is. Just notice, observe. That's the highest practice. From prayer squat, wide forward fold. Palms plant down. Hips lift up. Turn the feet parallel. And then half lift. And then very gently, knees soften. And this time we bring the right leg all the way back to wide low lunge. Left foot stays to the outside of the left hand. Right knee softly comes down. Top of the right foot comes down. And the hips sink us down. We receive a breath. Back toes tucked. Back knee lifts. Transition to wide downward facing dog. One more breath. Come home. Remember your choices. And then wide plank. Heels rise. Shift the body forward. Shoulders and wrists stack perfectly, right? Now we drop the hips down to shoulder height. Wide plank. And push the mat away from you as the hips rise up and return. Wide downward facing dog. Couple, 2, 3, 4 more. Deepen breaths. Self-observation. We've reviewed competition and expectations. So we will continue self-observing now as we move into judgments. From our wide-legged downward dog, heels rise up, slowly shift the body forward, gently bring the knees down, or don't bring the knees down, you're going to a spinal wave. So whichever way you want to practice spinal wave, please turn the feet and walk them in a little bit so they're hip width apart now. Now we return back to what we are accustomed to from your spinal wave. Now the knees softly come down, tops of the feet come down. Gently go back to the spinal balance. Left arm reaches forward, right leg reaches back. They rise together. But we're going to move into sunburst now. So from this lengthening, this reaching, this opening place, we hug it all in. Bend the left elbow, bend the right knee, bow the head down, hug, and hold that energy in close to your body and receive a breath. Reach it all the way back out. Reach it away from you. Give it away. And release a breath and hug all of that back in, close, deep, and tight, and open, expand, and reach. One more. Breathe. We're moving towards our self-observations with judgments. Back into the tabletop. Flow through a spinal wave. Just neutralize. Pause. And then back to our tabletop, ready for spinal balance to sunburst. The breath is beginning to receive as the right arm reaches forward. The left leg reaches back. They rise together. That reaching away, that expression of expanding, giving away. But then hug it all in. Bend the elbow, bend the knee, bow the head, hug yourself close and tight, bringing that energy back in. Open up, reach out, and release a deep breath. Hug it all back in. It is possible for us to observe without judging. The first step is just to observe. Second step, notice what is. And the third step is let go. Release our tendencies towards our judgments. Complete that last cycle. Go back to your tabletop. Flow through one soft round of spinal waves. We're finishing well. So we begin to invite a little deeper breathing, a little deeper movements. Back to tabletop. We're going to invite our child's pose to spinal wave flow. Our tabletop. When you're ready to release your breath, you start the upward spinal wave. So that means the back body lifts upwards. So the tailbone and the head have to bow down. Then we turn it around. As the tailbone lifts up, the head lifts up, and the hips reach back towards the heels. And the body folds gently forward. Don't go all the way to child. You're just going to lift up right away from here. So we rise back up. We shift the body back to tabletop. We tuck the tailbone, open the back body, bow the head down, receiving of a breath. Tailbone, head lift together, and the hips reach back towards the heels. Body folds gently. Even soften your forearms towards your mat. Rise back up, tabletop. Tailbone tucks, head bows. Tailbone and head lift, hips reach back. Just flow softly through child, back to the center. You can invite a few more cycles of this at your own rhythm. And maybe you just really, really want to slow it down deep. Maybe you want to pause just a few breaths in child's pose. When you observe yourself, you can listen to yourself. You can hear the body's inner messages for you. And that's where we can start to move into what's true for us. When we stay connected into that truth. Finish this last cycle, please. And when you've arrived at your child's pose this time, soften into it, deepen into it, release into it. We always give options for every asana practice. So if the arms are extended forward, but you're noticing, because you're self-observing today, you're noticing a little bit of discomfort with shoulders, bring the arms down by your sides, palms up. Just let the shoulders themselves just relax, release, and open out towards the outer edge of your body. Maybe you have another preference. You stack your forearms. You stack your fists. Pause in this pose. Self-observe. We've done some very good practices today. Some are unique. They're perhaps challenging. Maybe you noticed some expectations or some judgments, some competition nature, and you were aware of it. So then you had the choice, you observed it, and notice what is. And then release or let go of what does not serve. Enjoy this last deepened breath in full child's pose. Next breath, we gently begin to lift the head. Shift the body back into the tabletop. Flow through a soft spinal wave. Back into the center or neutral position. Transition to your seated pose and keep flowing into your supine pose. So you're transitioning well, keeping all the body parts in alignment. You practice what's truly right and ready for you today as you let your back body move down onto the mat. Please keep the knees bent, hip width apart, feet flat on the mat, hip width apart, arms just by your sides. The soft breath, notice the presence of the breath here. That's that self-observation. Always calling you back home. We'll very gently press into the soles of the feet. Either press the low back into the mat or let the gentle neutral curve stay. We're just going to rise to a little flowing bridge. So the hips begin to lift away from the mat, and then notice that push the knees away from your body as well. You'll get another form of muscular energy to help your body lift into little bridge. When you self-observe the knees pushing away from the body, let's release the breath. Wherever your body is, you're going to slowly descend, slowly return. Spine gently returns down onto your mat. Do 2 more of these flows. So allow your body to rise up into your little bridge. Best alignment you know, staying connected with breath, self-observing through expectations, competitions, and judgments. And we're doing one more beautiful little bridge flow. This is a practice that you lift yourself, you open yourself with your own strength. But then again, like your sunburst, you surrender. You turn it around. You let all that strength go. And you softly allow the spine to return to your mat. In your third full flowing little bridge is practiced, begin to pick up your left foot. Bring both hands onto the left thigh, behind the left knee, or in front of the left shin. We're going to flow with a little hugging here. So release the breath and hug that thigh in towards your chest. Receive a breath, release the hug. Release the breath, bring the left foot down. Receive the breath, pick up the right foot. Release this breath. Hug the right thigh in towards your chest. Receive and release that hug. Release the breath as the foot comes down. And when you're ready to receive, the left foot lifts again. Release the breath as you hug the thigh in. Notice, self-observe here. Bring the foot down. Keep flowing. Now there's a couple of breaths that I was encouraging you to follow with this practice. If it got confusing, if you got misguided between breath and practice, where did you go with that? Did you expect yourself just to do it perfectly without question? Do you compete with yourself and you get disappointed when you can't flow through or follow through exactly? Did you judge yourself? And you notice that I can never breathe and move at the same time. These are self-observations. These are the moments where we have that opportunity to notice what is. Bring yourself home. What is right here, right now. Follow through the last cycle of hugs. Always, always, always finishing at a balanced practice. And when both feet are back down on your mat, hip width apart, knees stay hip width apart. Open up the arms to your wingspan. And we're going to bend the elbows, interlace the fingers, and then lift the head just enough so the palms of the hands can rest at the back of the head. Thumbs point down. Let the head come back down to the mat, resting in your palms, elbows open out wide. Scissor walk your feet, please, so the inner edges are touching. The inner knees are touching. The inner thighs are touching. We're going to flow into a little twist. The breath moves our body. We know that, but we're always reminded so we never forget. And we release that breath as the knees travel together to the right. They stay together best they can. And the head is going to softly turn to the left today. Receive a breath. Bring your body back to your center. Begin releasing deeply the next breath. Both knees travel together over to the left. Head softly turns towards the right. Receive the breath. Come back into the center. It's going to flow for 2 more cycles here. And again, you're self-observing. And when you notice that there is an unmet expectation or competition, or you're finding you're judging yourself, that's when you really tap in deeper. That's where the real practice of self-observation comes into play. You notice the what isness of it. And then you can let go of anything that is not serving you. Yeah. So when your 3 complete cycles here are finished, you're back into the center. Softly lift the head gently. Tuck the chin to the hollow of your throat. Draw the elbows towards each other. Just either stay with this practice as it is or begin to lift up the feet and draw thighs and elbows towards each other. When you release a deep breath, you release the feet back down, you release the head, and you open the elbows back out. 2 more of those, please. Do what's right for your body. The receiving breath. The head lifts up and the elbows draw together. Chin tucks in, or you stay there, or you pick up the feet and you start to draw the elbows towards thighs, thighs towards elbows. Open back up. Release back down. Last time on your own. What is my pattern of expectation, competition, and judgment? When your practice is completed, lightly lift your head. Let the fingers slide apart. Open the arms out wide. And then bring both feet up together, or help lift both feet up with your hands. Give yourself a gentle double thigh hug. Both thighs hug in towards the chest, or the knees open out towards the armpits. Soften the abdominal area, releasing of the shoulders. And we're going to very gently let the legs be elevated. If you went with knees towards the armpits, bring the knees back to center before you lift. With or without support. This is one of these beautiful practices because you're at your safe place at home. But you can move over to an open wall. Or you can bring a chair and just let the calves rest on the chair if you choose. You can use your hands to gently support your legs. The knees, they can be softened. Just gently let them bend. We can play with the legs stretching out a little deeper. Self-observe. What would serve you best right here, right now? Our next breath is going to invite us to gently transition to Shavasana. Unless your choice is to keep the legs elevated today. Otherwise, let's just bend one knee, softly bring that foot down, bend the other knee, bring that foot down, and start to let the legs stretch out and release onto your mat. Allowing the feet to fall apart. Allowing the palms to face upwards. Shavasana. Our Shavasana reading today comes from Dr. Anthony Theodor. He is a German poet, an educator, and a pastor. Dr. Theodor, come home to yourself. Observe yourself. Self-observation is delightful. If you observe yourself, your illusions will crumble. Everything changes when you are aware. Be aware. Observe yourself. Gently draw your awareness to that place between your eyebrows. Expanding that awareness into your space. And the wiggling through your toes, perhaps ankles. The wiggling through your fingers, maybe wrists. And we softly place the left palm at our heart center, right palm across our belly, nourishing our body with several deep, refreshing breaths. And invite your next breath to awaken you as you give your body an awakening stretch. From our awakening stretch, we bend our knees to turn all the way onto our right side. And gently begin to rise into your seated pose. In our seated poses with Anjali Mudra, we receive a deepened breath. And we give ourselves permission as we release this breath to release anything no longer serving us well. Closing together today. May the longtime sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within guide your way home. Namaste. Thank each of you today for your presence on your mat and your practice. Please do unmute yourself and say goodbye to your fellow yogis. Goodbye.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Don. Enjoy this beautiful day.
Thank you, Melanie. You too.
Yes. Thank you, Julie, Donnie, and everyone for being present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks, Don. Hope to see you guys at the fair.
All right.
I'll be there.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank each of you today. Oh, so wonderful to see you all, and have a marvelous week. We'll meet back next Monday, brand new month, on our mats. Namaste.